All right, so Susan, now that we've had some time to review your IDI profile, now I'd like to shift gears and talk to you about your intercultural development plan.
That'd be great.
So I want to start first by anchoring all of this conversation with where you are in your development. What are you trying to accomplish with this self-directed study guide? All right, so remember your perceived orientation based on your IDI profile is you see yourself as having the capacity to shift perspective and behavior when those situations call for it. But the IDI indicated that you're struggling with how to reconcile some of those moral and ethical dilemmas. You're struggling with trying to figure out how exactly to do some of those adaptive behaviors. So we want to use this intercultural development plan to figure out how can we get you from a place of struggling to work through those moral and ethical dilemmas to that place that you want to be where you're shifting that perspective and behavior so that ultimately you're more effective. That sound good?
That sounds wonderful. Thank you.
I want to begin by reminding you that intercultural development is not built by engaging in a series of activities or by just going to places. It's really developed by being intentional and self-reflective. Intentional about the activities you're engaged in, intentional about the places you're visiting, intentional about the people that you're talking to and what those conversations are about, and then reflecting on that. Reflecting specifically, in your case, around what am I doing to build this capacity to be able to work through some of those difficult situations when I've got competing moral or ethical dilemmas. How can I work through that? That's what your growth area is. And that's what we want to focus on in the IDP. Now, there are lots of different ways to engage in development, lots of different ways to engage in learning. Some people enjoy training programs. Some people like to do workplace activities. If you have the opportunity to do some of those things, it's great. For you, one of the first things you want to start thinking about with that intentionality is, what are the learning activities that really fit my learning style? And so I'd really ask you right now, think about that. And if you were to say in terms of the training programs and maybe doing journaling or even traveling or doing site visits, what of those kinds of activities resonate the most with you? What would you say?
Oh, excellent. Well, I feel like I do quite a few of these, and they are really interesting to me. And I think, specific training programs are always things that I'm trying to keep an eye out and, even share with our faculty and educators in our district too.
Sure.
And I actually really enjoy reading books and articles, staying current in the field as well. And on the other page, when you were pointing out also traveling and the site visits piece, I really do enjoy exploring, going to new places, learning about history, different, things that I can learn from different places.
Very good. Now remember, your IDI would indicate that right now you've built that sort of high level of self-awareness, and with all that learning, that's one of the things that are challenging for you, is that you like to learn, you're very curious, you want to go and explore, but your challenge is what to do with that information, how to apply it. How do you make this more practical and applicable? And that's what we want to focus on as you work through your IDP.
Yeah.
And that's what your developmental opportunity is telling you about. Right? That's what this section is focusing on. Building some capacity to focus on those culture specific, not just the culture general. You know about different communication. At least you have a sense of awareness of different communication styles, different ways people might be oriented around time. So part of your work now is to start to identify some very specific areas of cultural differences for specific communities that you might be working with. And we can talk about that as we go through the conversation. Now, there's a 4-step process, or kind of 4 areas that we'd like you to explore. And the first 3 are really foundational. I'm not going to spend time, because we do have just a little bit of time left here, so I'm not going to explore that too much. I really just want to focus on that 4th section that's really targeted to your primary orientation. But I don't want you to forget to spend some time on those first 3 sections, because they're foundational. It's like building a house or starting any new thing. You gotta put the foundational work in. So don't minimize the work there. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what I want to do is really focus on that section 4. And what you'll see in section 4 is right off, we're going to start inviting you to explore some of your own cultural identity, just like you've been doing in some of that other work that you probably engaged in. Now we want to bring that front and center. So what are some of those patterns of differences that you primarily operate from? And then it's going to invite you to start thinking about some very specific areas of difference. And I want to actually invite you to start talking about this and thinking about this right now. What would be some of those specific areas that you at least maybe want to learn about, explore, think about a little bit more in depthly? What would that look like?
Yeah, as a leader within my school district, you know, I'm in Phoenix now, and in general, I'm responsible really for leading a lot of our faculty, educators, assistant principals, and one of the challenges I'm really noticing is a lot of our educators aren't really able to connect with our students that maybe aren't achieving, that are culturally different. So in particular, our Vietnamese and Somali students, African American students as well. It's just a challenge, and folks get really frustrated as to why aren't you achieving, you know, doing well in the classes, and that even carries over in our teacher conferences as well. And so it's not necessarily productive. Folks can get, you know, parents will get very irritated with our teachers and can kind of argue and disagree. And so our teachers aren't necessarily shifting the way they're, you know, instructing the students to really meet our students that have different experiences and ways of learning. So that's a place I'm stuck, you know, really challenge, and how do I really advise and coach our educators, and what more development could we be doing?
Good insights for you. A couple of things that I'm hearing you talk about, and that's first and foremost feeling stuck. Remember, that's what your IDI profile is going to tell you. It's reminding you that you kind of stay in that place of feeling stuck. So some of this is about risk-taking on your part. Trying some things out. You have a lot of good information, so some of that is about testing some things out, seeing what's out there, seeing what might work. I also heard you talk about the parent-teacher conferences. I'm wondering if there might be a place for some goal setting around maybe something related to the parent-teacher conferences, or maybe learning and maybe exploring some of those specific areas of difference that you talked about with your Vietnamese students, the Somali students, and some of your African-American students. I'm wondering if that might work its way into your intercultural development plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. The next section here is really going to start pushing you to start thinking about some of those specific areas of differences. Now, you may recall, or when you get a chance to take a look at this, there's a reference to this intercultural conflict styles. Now, this is really nice for you to be thinking about some of those communication and conflict style differences. And so some of this is embedded in there, but when you get to the next section, now you're going to be invited to start looking at it from one perspective and then shifting that perspective to look at it from another perspective, which is the very work you should be doing. Building that capacity to shift perspective. Look at it from a different angle. Look at it from a different vantage point. So for example, it asks you task orientation. So this is a particular way of dealing with folks, right? So this is a priority. So what would it look like from that orientation? And then what might be some of the underlying meanings behind different behaviors? And then what could it look like from another vantage point? Relationship orientation, which would be different. Task orientation, relationship orientation. So it's getting you to start practicing looking at and shifting that perspective.
Yeah.
Now 4.5 is going to go a little bit in a different direction. Now start having some conversations, engaging with folks. You talked about those parent-teacher conferences. Maybe you have some colleagues who have some very effective parent-teacher conferences. Any thoughts about some of your colleagues who might be having some of those conferences more effectively?
Yeah, you know, I was actually thinking of reaching out to other assistant superintendents, you know, other colleagues that I have that, you know, really that may be going well. They're able to really connect and, you know, have a similar, you know, student population that we do, and just kind of hear what strategies are working. How are you having to modify some of the things that you're doing so you can engage parents? So yeah, exactly that. I was actually considering who else can I connect with.
Very cool.
You know, yeah, absolutely. So
and again, it's about being intentional, right? So intentionally reaching out, connecting with some of those superintendents, and then again, being self-reflective. What are you learning about the way you all set up your parent-teacher conferences? What are you learning about the way they set up their parent-teacher conferences? And what can I be doing a little bit differently? Being intentional, self-reflective, and constantly engaging in that process.
Right.
Back to the parent-teacher conferences, and now you're at 4.6, and it's looking at it from a different perspective. It's more of that practice of shifting perspective. When you get into 4.7, now you're starting to explore areas that might be a little more challenging for you.
Okay.
All right, so this might, again, we're upping the sort of intensity level. So starting to get you to think about different cultural patterns, looking at what those different patterns are from different perspectives. And now, what patterns are really challenging or difficult for me? That's the next area. So you start to do a little work in here, and by the time you get to this section on 4.8, now you're talking about strategies. Now you're talking about behaviors. Now you're really trying to practice implementing what you've been learning.
Okay.
So when you get to this point, now, remember you've engaged in a lot of intentional work, a lot of self-reflection. I want you to really be thinking about some specific, practical, applicable situations where some of those behavioral shifts can really make you a little bit more effective.
Okay.
Can you think of some situations that might be showing up for you right now, or maybe in the near future, where that could?
Yeah, I think something even I struggle with, and even how to connect with our teachers, is when our parents aren't able to go to parent-teacher conferences. And so even from my perspective and what I know about education and learning, how important it is for family to be involved. And so, some of that could also be, I don't want to have any judgment or, as I'm navigating, the situation. But I know for me, in my background, my family was always involved. So I think this is a one to really understand. I mean, could it be the format and what we're trying to do, that type of thing, and trying to shift, maybe that's not working that well. So something around that. I don't know. Does that sound?
That sounds very good to me. How does it sound to you? Does it sound like something you would pull some energy, pull some direction from you?
Yeah, that's kind of one of those stuck points.
Okay. The stuck point.
Yeah,
that's a good one. That might actually be another place to think about. What are some of your stuck points? What are some areas where I hit a wall? There might be an opportunity for you to do some more digging, some more reflection there.
Sure.
Now, we didn't really go over this earlier, but I now want to, because I'm going to start to transition now.
Okay.
I want to remind you there are lots of different ways to use this IDP.
Okay.
Now, it's self-directed. That's the intention. But we found that it can sometimes be more effective when you're working with a good friend or a colleague or a peer who's also working on their intercultural development plan. So I encourage you to think about that, maybe connecting with, I don't know if you want to call it a buddy or study partner or something like that, where someone that you can kind of talk to, check in with from time to time, and help you stay accountable to engaging in your IDP. I heard you have several internal qualified administrators that you could refer to, and so consider that. So you can talk to a trusted colleague or a friend. You could also work with an internal QA or an external qualified administrator. There are lots of different ways you can make your intercultural development plan work for you. The key here is that you're going to take some ownership of engaging in your learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I actually find, I just get stuck in my head, thinking and processing. So I like that strategy of actually verbalizing and talking it out too. So thank you for that.
Good deal. Well, that concludes our time together. If you have any questions, you know that I've got a 7-day follow-up time. You can reach out to me and you can have some questions or an email if you need to figure something out as you're working on that. And then as you go on and build your intercultural development, you may want to re-engage with the IDI again, maybe reassess. And at that time, you might have to engage in some different learning at that point. So I'll leave it up to you at that point to how you want to extend your intercultural development.
Well, thank you so much for this.
I really
appreciate it.
Appreciate you. All right.
Thanks so much.